Well, Curtis, I think thinking back on the one-class tournament, it was kind of an event, and we'd listen to it on radio. The school would, it's a small school where I went to, it was Rochdale, and we'd listen to it on the radio the morning of the draw, and you'd hear the draw, and then you look for the paper, it came out, and even told you who the officials were assigned to each sectional. And the grocery stores always had a big poster board of all 64 sectional sites, and I think it's put out by Eckrich, I believe, and others made different signs, but that's one I recall at the local grocery store, and you'd have all kinds of contests and put them in. It was just a very special time because Indiana had a very unique tournament, and my understanding, I could be wrong on this, but I was always, and then with the understanding that the NCAA patterned their NCAA their tournament, basketball tournament, after Indiana's, with the same amount of, like for the regional and the Final 8 and then the Final 4. And so it was just unique. And as a talk of the state and everybody, you knew what everybody was doing. And I think that's maybe one of the biggest changes I see now. You don't recall maybe who won or if a small school, because you got your classes. And so we've kind of lost the average fan that just loves basketball. So we've kind of, you still have great attendance at some sites, and but it's a kind of, to some people have referred to it as a community tournament, because once you watch it, your team play, then you go, because you're not that concerned about the whole tournament, which back when I was a kid and growing up, and then my early days in coaching, you just stayed around, and in the Final Four, you've seen all the letter jackets and teams coming in, and you might only get 4 tickets because it was a sellout, and it was so the seniors usually got to go, and so it was always a neat time.
Can you tell me a little bit about maybe the significance of the Milan Miracle team? Why is it that they're so famous for what they did?
Well, I think people fail to realize that Milan got to the Final Four the year before. Now, we talk about the 54 team that won it, but they was also in the Final Four in 53. So it wasn't, a shock, and they were a small school. I think the enrollment would be maybe a 2A or 3A at this time. I'm not that accurate on that, but one thing that I recall about it is, you couldn't get a ticket, and we wanted to see them play. And my brother worked for RCA in Indianapolis, and he bought a 17-inch metal cabinet TV, and he got it on that Thursday before the state finals, and got everything hooked up, and him and his sister went in to buy it, and so we all gathered around the TV that night and watched the ball game, and even the afternoon game. So it was a neat experience, and I still remember seeing Bobby Plump stand out there holding the basketball and letting time go off, and of course we was just on the edge of our seat because we all wanted Milan to win, and then if we weren't so far away, we'd have probably went to the celebration like so many people did. They was lined up pretty much from Shelbyville on into Milan, I heard, that on the road there. So it was the talk of the state, and I think that's what's unique about it. But it wasn't just a run-of-the-mill team. They're very good, and like I said, so they was in the Final Four 2 years in a row, and so they had some good experience. And I think in what we're talking about, I remember that Montezuma won the regional that we was involved in, and then they played Milan in the Semistate at Hinkle. Well, it wasn't called Hinkle, I think Butler Fieldhouse then, but it was a great time, and so I remember reading about Montezuma Aztecs, and so it was kind of neat. When I started coaching at Bainbridge, we played them, and it was a neat, again, that was special time. And I suppose when our generation, when we're gone, the people who can recall the one class system, it may not be, you may not hear that the demand or there's still a lot of people who'd like to see it go back to one class. I'm one that I'd like to see a compromise. I'd like to see the Final Four and have one champion. But I realized that there were some things that need to be tweaked a little bit, shall we say, and get the small schools where they're, some of the sectionals had small schools, not the small schools. Some sectionals had completely large schools, and so a small school was very rare for them to come out of it. So if they had just kind of brought, I know the Hickory Compromise, which was out there quite a bit, was you bring into the Sweet 16 and bring 4 of the 1A, 4 2A, 4 3A, and 4 4A, and maybe some of them predicted that maybe even redraw it again, and of that nature. So I think that would have been awful neat, because I have attended the Kentucky State Tournament where they have 16 teams and they have one champion, and they start on Wednesday and go through to Saturday, and it's quite a spectacle, and I enjoy watching it, but still doesn't take place for Indiana basketball. So even though we have 4 classes, Indiana basketball is still the best, I think, high school basketball in the nation, and so it's just run different. We accept it, and like I said, I think once our old guys are out of it, they may not have conversations like this, because the people only know one thing, having 4 classes. But it was a special time, and because of my age, because I would experience it, I still think it was unique, and I miss it, and I wish it was still there.
And Milan doing what they did, it was really exciting for people because they were so small. Was that like a rare thing for a smaller school to go in? Or?
Well, I think at that time, yeah, you looked at them as a small school, but since then, you know, White River Valley and L&M before that. Well, schools, I started at Bainbridge. We got to Semistate a couple years in a row, and that was very exciting. Cloverdale got to the Final Four in '66. Shenandoah has done extremely well at times. Argus had some good teams. So there's some small teams that I can think of there that has done well, and I'm sure we can think of others. You didn't have to really win the state. I think if a small school had done well, if they won the sectional or especially won the regional, it was very exciting, and so you got a chance to play the big schools, and the way it was covered from the whole tournament, like I said, from the draw on, you just knew pretty much. You knew almost who the 64 winners. You always look and see who the 64 winners were. You looked at the regionals. You looked at Semistate. So a small school could really get a lot of recognition by winning sectionals, and then if you could win a regional, or if you get to the Semistate and do well there. And like I say, there were some smaller schools since Milan that's got to the Final Four in the one class.
But then Montezuma and Milan going at it, how rare was that? Just two very small schools going at that far into the tournament.
Yeah, I think that was unique because you had 2 small schools in the Semistate, and that didn't always happen, Curtis. That was and so that we always got a lot of limelight and a lot of interest in the game, and so that was again a special time. And whenever any small school would get to that stage, where it was in a Semistate, or where they played a big school or another small school, but like you said, most of the time it was not a small school versus a small school. But if it just happened to be that way, then it really got a lot of excitement because you knew one was going to get to the Final 8, and then and then like I say, Milan got to the Final Four 2 years in a row.
And then did you say, were you at the game for that one?
No, I couldn't get a ticket. No, that's why we got the TV on the Milan game, and the same way at the Semistate. You know, I was in grade school, and so I was lucky enough to get a sectional sometimes. I couldn't even get a sectional until you got in high school. So a lot of times with grade school, it was a sellout. You couldn't get tickets, and then sometimes the sectional was during the school day, and so you had to have a ticket to. And so they only have so many tickets, and only certain, usually the seniors and juniors got to go, and because they could drive and get down there. So I didn't get to see too many tournament games till I got in high school, but it was I sure made up for it till. And I still try to go even in the 4 classes. If we get beat, I'll try to pick where 2 teams are playing that are going to have maybe a good competitive game. So like I said, I still attend the tournament. I don't feel the excitement that I did, but I'm sure it's my age.